Hey everybody, welcome to the live. I wanted to just give everyone a couple of minutes here to get in and get themselves settled. Let me know how you guys have been over the last week. Last week we finished up our series in for burnout. I'm getting really excited putting together my touches here for the April series. Is going to be overwhelm. Burnout and overwhelm really go hand in hand together. And I thought, what better way to handle burnout than the next part, which is the overwhelm. But today I wanted to do something different since it's March 31st. Tomorrow is the beginning of April. I didn't want to start something new on the last day of the month. So I'm going to jump into a coaching lesson, which I really think is awesome. I use this all the time for myself, for my clients. It is one of the fundamentals, I think, in terms of how to make good decisions. And once you kind of see it, it's hard to unsee it. So today we're going to talk about how our brains make decisions, right? The good ones and the bad ones. How do y'all like my drawings? The little angel and the little devil. If you're here watching live, drop a comment below. I want to see, like, do you guys like my pictures? Should I keep drawing them? I know I should not have gone into, art as my career. That's my art teacher in junior high would have told me. But I want to start off with a big question. What is one thing that you're doing right now, but you found it really hard to get started? And I think this is the perfect place I think we all get into, especially as we're being coached or we're going through a program, whether it's a weight loss program, maybe it's a stop drinking program, maybe it's just trying to do a hard 75. I know a lot of guys who are doing the hard 75s, and it's how do you get started? And this lesson here today, I think, is going to help everybody who's watching with that. So I want to kind of go over what's something that you're doing right now that you're like, I really want this. I want to lose the first 10 pounds. Or, for me, it's actually starting a morning routine, right? I believe that, the best way to set up your day is to have a great morning. Once you can do something first thing, Sanda's is like consistency to a diet. Yeah, that's the intermittent fasting. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people are doing as well. So, for me, it's establishing a good morning routine. And I was challenged by my coach to get up consistently at 5:45 every morning, and I created kind of a morning plan for myself, and I am being held accountable to doing this every single day. And this is where the brain comes in, right? This is where the good decision, the bad decision, the little devil and angel that were sitting on our shoulders, always speaking in our ear. And when my alarm goes off at 5:45 in the morning, 5:50, um, I get to hear both the angel and the devil every single morning. What's the angel telling you to do? In my head, it's telling me, get up. This is going to make you feel good. This is something that you want to do. There's benefits to it, in the long run. And then I get the bad boy on the other shoulder who's like, man, this sucks. The sun's not up. You're tired. Like you have, come on, no one's up at 5:45. What is wrong with you? This reeks of effort, right? And that is something that I, don't like to do that much. I don't like to work out. I don't necessarily like to get up that early. I'm not what you would call a morning person, but these are the conflicting thoughts that are in your head. And I think we all have that. So, drop a comment below if what your devil tells you when you're about ready to start something and you have option B. What is your option B? Is it sit on the couch, go for a walk? Is it eat Cheetos, or is it have an apple? So for me, it's get up at 5:45 or hit snooze for an hour, right? I think that's something we can all relate to, especially on Monday mornings. That's the hardest one to get into, or keeping your routine going through the weekend. So what I want to dive into really at this point is kind of where it shows up. And I see it in coaching all the time. I also see it with myself all the time. And we're going to demystify it today. One of the things I always like to say is that once you see it, it's really hard to unsee it. Once you know how those mechanisms work, once you know what the motivations are behind your little devil on the shoulder, then it's so much easier to make intentional decisions. And really the job of coaching is to help you to separate those two stories and let you decide which one you want to choose. So usually when we're faced with a choice, it boils down to two, an A and a B. It's very, very simple. Usually it's short-term pleasure right? So we're thinking short term versus long term success, right? And I think this is what we're always faced with. Do we sacrifice feeling good right now for long term success, a goal, or do we just say F it and just dive in, right? I think when we're younger, it's so much easier because you see this long runway, this long ability, like, oh, I'm going to go to school for 4 years, but I'm going to have that knowledge for the rest of my life. It's worth the investment. And as we get older, we get a little more complacent. We settle in. We're like, we've already done the hard work. Now it's time to reap the benefits of all of that effort that we've put in and all that sacrifice. And I think we use those terms: sacrifice. I don't want to deprive myself. I've already done it. And we kind of, that's the narrative that starts to boil up in our heads when we're having those thoughts, right? But if we can pull back on the curtain here, we can totally see what's happening. And there's gonna be a little biology lesson about how our brain works, right? So our brain it's made up of a lot of complex areas, but for the purpose of this lesson, I'm gonna keep it simple and just focus on two. One's the neocortex and the other one's your amygdala, right? Your neocortex, this is your brain, right? Neocortex makes up a huge part of your brain, and it's this front lobe. And what's happening here is all of the decision making happens here. Your choices, this is kind of, my black's kind of dying on me. This is kind of where your angel lives. This is where his residence is, right? This is where all the choices are made, the good ones and the bad ones. They're all made from here. But then we have what's known as our amygdala, and in coaching speak, this is your primitive brain. So this is your amygdala, your primitive brain. Some coaches refer to it as your head and your heart voice. This is your head voice. And this here in red is where this guy lives, right? And what I really want to do is dive in to what happens here that makes this big part of our brain succumb to this one, okay? And it boils down to what I was taught as the motivational triad. Now, the motivational triad, you can think of it like a triangle, right? And it's basically describes our primitive brain in three ways. It's only trying to do one of three things, or all three, right? The first one is avoid pain, right? So that's hot, don't touch it. Hey, there's a gang of unrulies, let's stay away from it. Avoid pain. So it's scanning for places that's going to hurt you physically. The other one is seeks pleasure, right? In the prehistoric time, this was eat those berries, they taste sweet and good, so let's eat more of them. Today it's, ooh, that beer was good, let's have another, right? My friend John always jokes with, hey, how's that beer, John? Oh, it tastes like another, right? So it's one of those things. We like to double down on pleasure, and our amygdala and our primitive brain is enforcing that for us. And the last one is reduce effort. And this is one that you don't really notice off the bat because you're like, reduce effort. But in prehistoric time, when calories were at a premium, reducing effort could be the difference between you surviving and you dying. But that hasn't, now as we've evolved and we're in the modern age, we really don't have to worry about most of this stuff. You don't have a caloric deficit. At least I don't, and I don't know anyone in my family who does. Most of us guys have the dad bod, so there's lots of calories to feed off there. So this reducing effort doesn't come in. Seeking pleasure, well, we've got lots of pleasure. We can pleasure on tap. We're in a nirvana of pleasure. Netflix, TV shows, video games, foods that are rich in sugar and cream and flavor, right? And all of the distractions that you want in the world. You want to go to Disneyland, there's a distraction. You want to go to do any activity that they're at your disposal. And then lastly, avoiding pain. Well, with the exception of other hotspots in the world, most of us aren't in a war zone. Most of us, don't have things that are actually going to be in our, pain threshold. And a lot of us go and seek out pain, right? Whether it's jujitsu or, getting into those mixed martial arts. So when you know that this is what your primitive brain is trying to do, it's easier to decide what to do once you can shine a light on it, right? So when I was looking at this, when I look at this and when I coach on this, you have to be specific. There's one specific thing that you need to bring up, right? And I'll use my example, which is the waking up in the morning. So I know when I wake up in the morning, my brain is saying, my primitive brain is saying, don't get up, right? It's trying to reduce my effort because it knows what I'm trying to do. My primitive brain's like, Pete's going to get up and he's going to go do 20 to 30 minutes of yoga this morning. And I don't want him to. I want him to sleep, save his energy, right? Stay in this comfy, warm bed, pleasurable. Being first thing in the morning, it's probably cool in the house, it's dark. That's not pleasurable. Slaying in bed is pleasurable. So my primitive brain is telling me these two things. Well, I know that's what it's trying to do. And I like to say it's just like a toddler that is having a tantrum. This primitive brain is exactly like the toddler in the house or at the store who's crying at you to get them that Kit Kat when you're at the checkout counter. It's telling you that you are going to die. Like, do not do this. Do not do what you want to do. Listen to me because I'm keeping you safe and comfortable, right? And when you give in to the toddler, when you give in to the primitive brain, when you give in to the devil on your shoulder, you're reinforcing that behavior, right? So when you're reinforcing that behavior, who gets fed? Who gets stronger? It's the devil on your shoulder, right? And the trick, and this is something that kind of opened it up, blew my mind a little bit, was that the amygdala, your primitive brain, doesn't make a single choice. It's just an advocate. Who makes the choice? Your evolved brain does. Your neocortex does. The adult part of your brain makes the choice. And so what's happening is your toddler is coming up and saying, don't get up, and you don't. And you're reinforcing that behavior, you're giving that bad advice treat, but you're the one doing it. Your adult brain is the one doing it. And I'll use an analogy that worked really well for me because, with the kids, I went into their pediatrician and he said, how's their eating habits, right? And I'm like, they're okay. I go, but they eat a lot of sugar. And the pediatrician looks at me and goes, well, do they get in the car and go get it themselves? And I laughed and I was like, no, I buy it for them. And he's like, well, why? I'm like, that's a good point. It's easier to give in than it is to resist it and to build the habit where eventually they don't want it. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. It's easier to resist it, or it's easier to give into it than it is to resist it or say no. And this is something I want everyone to think about who's on this live today or who's watching on the replay. When's the last time that you gave in to a toddler? And I'll and that toddler was you, right? If you want to achieve your ultimate goal, if you want to accomplish something, you need to build that muscle and you need to parent your own brain. And I know it sucks and I know it's hard, but it's necessary in order to change habits. It's necessary in order to control your future, right? And that's kind of what I'm saying here is the next time that you're faced with this choice of do what's going to be for your long-term success or do what's going to be pleasurable right now, understand that you're giving into one of these three things: pain, pleasure, or effort, right? Comment below if this actually resonates with you guys, if this is landing, because I found this lesson super powerful when I was going through it, and I think that this is something that even when you see it, it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. It does take coaching as well. It does take having a third eye who's looking at this objectively and showing you these two scenarios. And that's something that I do quite a bit in when I coach with my clients, is showing them these two brains and which one is going to make the decision, which one's going to lead your future, which one's going to create what you want to create, right? And again, like I said, with my coach, I use them as an accountability partner. And And I think that that's one of the things that as we're trying to build this muscle, just like if you're weight training at the gym and you need a trainer to help you, to spot you, to get you to that strength, I think that making these decisions that are going to benefit you in the long run is perfect for having a coach. And so if you're looking for help, if you're trying to do something hard, whether it's like we talked about last month, burnout, or the month before, if you're trying to overcome anger and knee-jerk reactions and you don't want to bitch slap someone on stage, this is what this is for. That's succumbing to this primitive brain, right? So I'd love to work with any of you who are interested. If you're ready to kind of get started, drop me a call. I'll put my link to the website in the show notes here, in the live notes. You can book a call with me too if you just want to talk, if you just want to bounce some ideas around. What does that future look like where you have managed these and you've tamed the toddler in your brain? So I hope that was helpful for everybody. This is, like I said, I love this topic. I hope that you guys, LOL. Yeah. I just want to say thanks to Sados for the comments. I want everybody who's watching either live or in a replay, drop a comment below. Let me know if there are other topics that you want me to dive into. I'm planning on peppering some more of these coaching concept calls into the Facebook Lives, so that you guys get a better understanding as we're going forward of how this helps you and how you can implement it. So start tomorrow, start today. Look at your decision making and see where you feel you're fitting in this good versus bad dilemma. And I look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks. The time is very, yeah, it's a super, super powerful concept. I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thursday, 4:15, I'll be starting my Overwhelm series. Excited to get started. I'm going to have a few tools, coaching tools that you guys are going to be able to download that are associated with that. But tune in next week for that. And like I said, everyone have a great, great weekend. And don't get fooled tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye.